Welcome to this panel discussion. I'm Sudarshan, and along with me, my colleagues Atul and Ramesh are here. So, hi from all of us. And we are looking forward to meet you in the coming program. It is on July 21st, 22nd, 2029, which is 8th session. And today we actually plan to have an open dialogue and open session with all of you. So we can try to understand what is this canvas of IoT and Industry 4.0 in general. And today all three of us would like to actually have open dialogue with you. However, in order to start a dialogue, we will just initiate certain points and then we'll deliberate on it. My request to all would be as responsive as possible. Your feedback, your communication will make it more lively. If there are appropriate questions and time permits, perhaps we can have actually a lot more discussions as well. So today, actually, I would like to start the session with raising an important question, actually. What we are going to discuss today and in the coming sessions. And I would like to throw this question open to my colleagues themselves and so that they can initiate a dialogue on this. I would like to state a comment over here saying that how important is Industry 4.0 in today's context? Why I am saying is today's context because we are changing a lot of transitions and everything, and then we are also talking about Industry 4.0. So let's try to take a look at what experts say from Industry 4.0 in the today's context. And I would like Mr. Ramesh and Mr. Atul Marathe to briefly discuss about this.
Thanks, Sudarshan. I'll go first. While we talk of the importance of Industry 4.0, a parallel concept which everybody is now talking about these days is this thing called digital transformation. Especially after, digital transformation has been a very important topic ever since the world has seen how companies like Google, Amazon, Netflix, and the others are taking over all the conventional businesses across the world, primarily because of their digital capabilities. Now, with the pandemic, the COVID, the urgency and importance of digital transformation has become even more significant and almost critical. In fact, critical without overestimating, it is almost a situation of digitize or die. And we can see why it is so. For example, just take the fact that we are having this meeting virtually, and this is how the world has been conducting its business for the last 2 years virtually itself. If you look at the Economic Times report today, travel costs in organizations have come down by 70 to 80%. And people have now been forced to conduct their business working from home or education through mobile phones and laptops, and so on and so forth. So the list is unending. So, in short, it's clear: digitize or die.
Oh, thanks, Ramesh. for that.
I think
impactful-
Atul might.
Yeah, Ramesh, thanks for that impactful way of telling that digitize or die. And I understand that in the COVID situation, we are really too much reliant on the technology, and suddenly everybody is taking up to technological challenges which they had not taken. However, I would say that Industry 4.0, especially for the manufacturing world, it's not something too closely related to COVID. I would say that this uh, awareness that digitization and computerization helps had started in the early 70s with the MRP systems coming, and then we had ERP systems, and people realized that yes, computers can do a lot of wonders in the manufacturing world. It started with accounting, and then it started with payroll, and then it went to manufacturing systems and so on. Then there was another jerk, I would say, in around 2000 or so, when robotics started picking up a lot, because robotics had started earlier, but not picked up so much. And so robotics and automation of work, and people realize that human beings doing the job, you're not getting that efficiency which the mass production is giving you. And if you robotize and create assembly lines that work automatically, etc., then you get much better production. So the focus was always on productivity and improvement of operational costs and so on and so forth. The third thing that came later was the AI part of it, or the artificial intelligence, which we see since 2010 or something. Now we realize that if industry really wants to grow, they have to merge these three things. Till now, it has been so that yes, we have different kinds of business application systems on the computer. We have different kinds of automation possible using robotics and automated sensoring, and you have data capture with sensors, you have RFIDs, you have mobile phones which capture a lot of stuff now, and so on and so forth. And you have artificial intelligence which can do some of the decisions for you as well. But today, I find that the biggest challenge for Industry 4.0 or this digital experience is to marry all these three together, because these are different technologies. And besides these three, there are a lot of other emerging technologies coming up also, which we might discuss a bit later, which are forcing us to go towards this digital way, and we can leverage all of them a lot. That's my take on that.
Thanks, Ramesh, and thanks, Atul. I think it's wonderful this in way. No doubt, the industry has been seeing a transformation, and that's why we reach up to the 4.0 as a revolution, what they talk about. But rightly, what you both of you said is quite true. In fact, when I interacted with my customers and companies, like actually those who are making an apparel manufacturer, the big companies, today they say their business is no longer making those gadgets or manufacturing, or maybe even if, like, for example, even if you go to a company like Nike, and if you really talk to them, and today they say that no, we are a digital company, because not only the manufacturing is one activity, but the way the entire business is actually getting captured, run, and done across, they're all multiple operations, is through the digital transformation. And that's why actually they approach these companies to take this digital journey ahead. There's absolutely no doubt. So rightly you said, I think, and just to summarize, I think merging of all the technologies together to see that the industries are actually leading towards a digital transformation. So now once we actually talk about it, I would like to have a kind of a quote unquote questions for our audience as well as actually to our panelists. And we do not know like what type of the audience what we have, but I have general open questions here now, having gone through the generic one. How ready is your company for Industry 4.0? So this question is open for all, and we'd like to take actually one or two takes from the audience itself. I'm sure actually they can unmute. Yes, I see actually Sheshadri.
Ajaram.
Sheshadri, welcome. Thanks for your quick response.
Mr. Nathu and Mr. Ravi and Mr. Marathi, thank you for having this panel discussion. See, I am heading a medium scale German industry, Indian operations in India. And for the last 3 years, I have attended a number of seminars on Industry 4.0. And after going through all this, at least by Siemens, by Bosch, and uh, some other consultancy companies, and then after attending so many seminars, I am still not sure whether Industry 4.0 will benefit a company like mine, because we are in discrete manufacturing. We are not in mass manufacturing. We are not in mass production, and we are more or less having a good digitization in our company. We are working with a ERP system, SAP system. We are working with, and we are having working from home during the COVID, and everything we are doing, and we are also doing digital marketing in Facebook and LinkedIn and all that. And now we are thinking of implementing the CRM project in SAP CRM module. After doing all this, then when I looked at after attending the seminars, I came out with an impression that all these people who are promoting this Industry 4.0, they were more interested in storing data and making money out of storing the data at their this thing. Because I really don't understand, don't know whether for a medium-sized company having some 20, 30 CNC machines or something, and a smaller medium-sized company, whether this Industry 4.0, whether the investment will really bring the benefits, and whether we will really be able to get return on investment with all this. So
Okay.
I have been debating, and I have not reached a conclusion. Till now, I am not convinced that Industry 4.0 is really worthwhile for a medium-sized company, at least in India. I am still not sure.
Thank you, Mr. Sheshadri. I really appreciate actually your feedback, open feedback. However, I'd like to first congratulate you for actually taking onto this journey, which is a digital journey, what you have taken. I'm sure actually you're looking at the benefit of it, because Industry 4.0 canvas is pretty huge, like what we just described. And maybe what you're marching towards is bits and pieces and already into it. So that's what I look at it. And my experience working with almost various global companies, I think yes, whether the size of the company doesn't matter, because today the large, medium, or very large companies, even if they are taking advantage of all this technology, so whichever actually suits your business, you need to pick them up. Now, when you really go from industry to industry, and we'll look all of these when we look at actually case study, when you people come with some kind of a case study, and we look at it. But I think your question is really a good teaser for us. And I'm really listening. So we'd like to take another one input from here. Is anybody there?
Can I interrupt a bit, Sudarshan?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Sheshadri, I mean, obviously, you are one of those companies which is at the leading edge of digitization as it stands today. For example, companies that have implemented SAP and is now on the verge of getting into CRM and so on and so forth. These, especially for a medium-sized company, is in itself, I mean, you're a kind of a techno leader of this whole journey. Okay, but I mean, applications such as predictive maintenance, for example, although even the leading companies around the world have not yet successfully implemented, only the top-notch companies like Google and so on and so forth have really mastered this game. even all other leading manufacturing companies are still at the very early days. And now in this race, the one who gets ahead with predictive maintenance, I mean, using prediction, AI, ML in their operations for predictive maintenance, visual inspection, intelligent inventory management, real-time stock in, stock out automation, and so on. These companies are obviously going to lead the path. But you're right. Up to now, you probably are a leader of the pack in terms of digitization. And especially companies like you should now get onto the AI, machine learning, IoT, and the Industry 4.0 bandwagon. These are early days for everybody in the world.
Ramesh, let me just actually interrupt here. I think we have got another friend, actually, EJT, and please go ahead and actually ask. You can unmute yourself and talk a bit. But thank you, Sheshadri, once again. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. I represent the profession of intelligent machines in warehousing sector. And from the talk of Mr. Sheshadri, I would like to highlight 2 points that are really, if honorable panel member can include in the discussion. First is there are set of customers and clients who are really interested, who understand the benefit of Industry 4 and IIoT, but their apprehension is post-installation maintenance. They understand that although I am capable to install the system, but will I able to maintain it? Will I get the post-installation spare part? Do I have right talent to maintain that system? So this is one challenge in the mind of a set of customers who are convinced about the benefit of Industry 4, who are willing to invest, but still there are apprehension of the implementation stage. And another set of customers are there. They are really looking into affordable automation. So that is also industry leaders should come up, since we India are a market of volume and lots of MSME are there. If you see the collective power of the MSME, it's there is huge potential, but somehow affordable automation is also the need of Indian manufacturing sector. So this is what I want to highlight for honorable panelists.
Absolutely excellent points you raised. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. And like what actually Atul said in the initial phases, that the automation part or the taking actually the everyone industry to the next level has been attempted and being attempted, and continuous journey is going on for years and the decades. There is absolutely no doubt. And people were actually looking at their own methods depending on their nature of a business, and then adopting various technologies which are very local to them, which is very much actually only localized to their type of the industry. And that's why actually the next question actually which comes to my mind is precisely because there are different type of the industries, different type of the businesses. Is actually Industry 4.0 is ready for those type of the set of the people? Because generally we talk about Industry 4.0 and IIoT in general, and everybody would like to go on it as a bandwagon and actually start implementing it, or at least say that, yes, we are implementing it. People would like to go and talk about it so that their customers can be attracted to them, saying that they are the company those are going for a forward-looking technology as such. And that's why the next question comes to my mind for both my panelist friend is, now knowing that actually the some companies are ready, some companies are not ready. How do you know that is your type of the industry is ready? We have been talking about in general. Now I'd like to ask a specific question saying that how do you pocket them, various type of the industries, and how do you go about it? So I would like to actually ask Ramesh or maybe Atul to elaborate on
Sudarshan,
and
I
go a
would
little
like
bit deeper
to
into that.
I would like to start a discussion on this part of it. That what I find from the responses that we got till now, and even some of the comments written in the chat box, are that yes, the basic skills or the basic challenges that people are finding are in this kind of skills that are to be developed. So it could be a question of maintaining those new technologies. It could be a question of learning those technologies, or could be apprehensions about the cost benefit analysis of using these new technologies. So these are the three kinds of questions which I would say there are coming from the audience. So, but I would say that historically, if you look at it, there were a lot of companies who are apprehensive about ERP implementations also in the past. And then they said that, yeah, we really don't know whether we should spend so much money on ERP or we should not spend it. The similar things were also talked about in case of robotics, and the same is talked about today as far as AI is also concerned. But we find that those companies which are successful in the world today, like Ramesh was telling about Amazon, Google, all these, and they are different kind of companies who have become suddenly successful. And they are successful because they use data heavily. And that is what Industry 4.0 is talking about. So although I would say there is a confusion in a lot of people's mind that what technology to adopt and how to go about doing it, I agree with that. But yes, I think they have to find a path of their own, or decide on a roadmap and then go which helps them the best and which they are most comfortable with.
I also want to share maybe some experience. I mean, since Mr. Sheshadri talked about German company, I was recently in Germany, and my son works for a German company which wants to get into IoT, and it's otherwise a very well-known software products company. Okay, and so they did a survey, and they discovered that even in Germany and in Europe, okay, the thinking is clear. 100% of the companies in manufacturing want to get into Industry 4.0, or basically digital transformation. So that thinking, by the way, is quite a recent thinking. I mean, up to now, many people were skeptical about whether it is necessary and so on. But I think COVID has clearly tilted the balance in favor of, yes, we have to do it. Okay. But most companies still are don't know. About 20% of the companies approximately have an idea of how they will conduct their digital transformation journey. Most of them are in the POC stage right now, and very few are actually in full-fledged production stage. That is, they are about to, but not yet implemented a full-fledged, let's say, predictive maintenance system, or a full-fledged visual inspection system using artificial intelligence on the shop floor. They are about to get there, and there are very few such companies. So that is the current state. And as AJT mentioned, I think the real challenge now is one of lack of skills. There aren't too many people available. So the only way companies can, tackle this challenge is by having a strong training program internally to reskill their employees. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. I think as we are discussing on specifically on this topic, I would like to just narrate one simple example here. The various companies, those who look for actually the making best use of the technology, And we talked about the canvas of Industry 4.0, which encompasses everything, right from actually ERP to the entire system integration. Now, today, when the people actually talk about implementation, naturally they would need to be dependent on their internal resources or on the external resources. That's one thing. Where it's possible that you can use your internal resources, or sometimes you have to get them technologies from outside, or maybe a platform to be used from outside, and people are working towards that. Now, what we intend to do with this as overall the certificate program is that we'll come to that in detail, but typically to make this awareness of the people to see how we can go about doing it and whether it is actually meant for you or not. And if you wanted to do it, how you'd like to do it. I'll give one example. Like there is a company in the world, those who are manufacturing gensets, and they're pretty huge gensets. And this is just before COVID. Incidentally, having worked on this digital transformation and building products for various cross-domain companies. So this particular company wanted, they could not make actually the new product itself, but they actually thought of making an add-on product which will actually help them in installation, in remote monitoring, and actually predictive maintenance. And then they came up with a kind of an idea, and then we worked with them to create a technology for them. So in fact, the company got changed their complete model because they were selling huge generator in the sense we have been looking at the small generators, but they're talking about a really huge generators in megawatt capacities. And they're not simple to actually manufacture, install, maintain. This is a huge thing which is really required. And that's why such kind of technology and the industry need will change it. And then we'll visit some of actually case studies as well and try to see how those people have tried to implement it as well when we actually discuss. That's one thing.
Okay, thanks, Sudarshan. I think in the interest of the audience and the kind of questions they are asking, I would like to raise the next question to both of you, and and the other members can also add to it. Is, firstly, what is the approach that we are suggesting for the industries to adopt Industry 4.0? And secondly, I would say that what are the reskilling or the skilling needs that we are already talking about? So if you both of you could give some comments on these two areas, then we could ask the other panel member or the other members also to comment on it.
Should I go first, Atul?
Ramesh, you want to
Yeah, please, Ramesh.
Okay,
go ahead.
okay, right. Okay, so I mean, as we already know, these are early days, and I mean, nobody exactly knows how 100% how it should be done, or this is the right way, correct? So we need to conduct creative experiments in the organization and then select those projects and then make full scale investments in those projects which we are finally convinced will deliver the goods, the return on investment, and so on and so forth. So as Mr. Seshadri mentioned, we have to conduct POCs first before we are sure of a full scale deployment. So how do we do this? So I would suggest that organizations should set up a top management steering committee, so to say, which acts like a venture capitalist organization, right? And set up internal competitions in their organization for people who come up with digital transformation ideas. It's like some sort of entrepreneurship is encouraged, right? So different people will come with different ideas about how predictive maintenance can be done, and how visual inspection can be done, or how we can use XYZ to improve customer interaction, and so on and so forth, right? These projects then need to be sponsored by this top management committee. and then they should take it forward. So that is one. Another point I would say is, see, to make this whole transformation ultimately successful, you need a different way of thinking about data, especially, right? Your decision making has to be data driven. It has to be not like, like a salesman would say, "Arey boss, I saw in his eyes that he wanted to buy my product." No. Now, I mean, there is no gut feel and so on and so forth. Those ways of making decisions are gone. Now, you have to trust only in the data, because that is speaking the truth. So data driven decision making is a different way of thinking about this whole process. So that's, I think, something that we should look at very clearly. I mean, statistical thinking, critical thinking, data driven thinking. So these are the two things I think companies should embrace wholeheartedly, and then take the journey forward.
Good, good. I think, yeah, Ramesh, like what you said is quite true. So data is basically the oil, and actually you need actually fuel to burn and actually get a juice out of it and energy. So what is driving is the industry today, the data, and naturally, how we go about doing it and what we have done so far as an expert in actually teaching this technique to the various people and helping them to embark the journey is actually look at the data, how to actually extract the data, how to capture a data, what are the ways of actually capturing various type of the data, which is actually useful in decision making, data-driven decision making. The data is huge, there is no doubt about it. But how to find out actually the meaningful data? What data set actually you really need it? And what are the various ways to get that data into your system and how to work on it? That's a very important aspect along the way. So I would say when the company or when the team looks at actually an idea and try to create it, they need to look within a company that what type of the things, the data what they have, what type of the techniques they would need it, and we would like actually to enable them to understand how to get actually this data and then start building on those and use various technologies.
Thanks, Sudarshan. Anybody else would like to comment on that? What approach they are following in their organization?
Yeah.
Sure.
Again, I'm getting in. Sorry for butting in.
Go ahead.
See, what we have done in our organization is since I am part of a German group of companies, German group, in the last 1.5 years, we have transformed all our products because we are in the mechatronics business. So we have our major products consist of sensors, actuators, and controllers. Now, during the last 1.5 years, what we have done is we have brought out new generation of products which are all web enabled, so that we can do remote installation, and they are all software driven products, digital products. So all our products will be now possible to be installed remotely and connected to the customer's Wi-Fi with authorization by the customer. And we are able to, now we have launched these products only recently, and we are also launched them in India also, and we are conducting field trials in India also. So our new generation of products will all be web enabled, and so we are making our customers industry 4.0 compatible. But in our own manufacturing, see, in the manufacturing, what happens is all the new machines come with all the they come with Industry 4.0 compatibility with all sensors, so everything. But you have got legacy machines which are 5 years, 10 years old and all that. And if you really want to convert to the Industry 4.0, you need to convert all these machines, and they have different controllers, different interfaces. So you require to have connectivity between all these machines coming with different configurations. So, and this involves a lot of work, lot of investment, and probably customized software to be developed, because you can't work with the standard software in these cases when you want to connect machines having different working from different generations, and then having different kind of controllers. How do you really communicate with each other? So these are all some issues. I looked at all this, and probably I felt personally that when we are in a position to replace at least more than 50-60% of our machines to the newer generation machines, then probably we are ready to move on to Industry 4.0, rather than investing in old machines, modifying old machines, which you may probably scrap in a 2 or 3 or 4 years time. So this is always what to do when is always an issue, and how to do it when you're having different machine, different configurations is always a problem facing industries who are in business for a long time. You see, that's the main thing. Okay.
I'm really glad actually, Mr. Seshadri, you really hit on to the point. And like I said, in fact, and to be very honest, actually, I'm a person actually with 40 years in hardware, software, embedded product development, and absolutely latest cutting edge technologies, including the variables and everything, and in this space. And one of our larger business was actually to enable the previous machines and make them ready, because the people were still not ready with the new products. In fact, today I'm happy that actually you are able to use products which are web-enabled products. But look at industry. When I did actually first time in 2006, 2007, when we talk about digital transformation, I'm talking about now more than 13, 14 years ago, right? And that's where exactly the things were getting changed. That is enabling the existing machines, integrate them in such a way, adopt actually various protocols, technologies, enable them for the newer one. Meanwhile, the people have come up with new technology itself as a product. And rightly what you said, your company has done the right thing. You implemented a new products because you could actually take a decision. And I'm sure even though you said in the first question saying that you are really not sure whether it's good or bad, but looking at your answers and looking at your experience, I can tell you, you are much more into it, to be very honest. Okay, because most of the time the people would actually look at it and might get actually stuck there, because certain industry, certain type of the legacy machines, they may not, even if after putting a lot of efforts, will not be beneficial. So wherever it is to be optimized, just do that. Three of us actually conducted many sessions so far for Industry 4.0, and this thing, and where we learned from our maybe the colleagues who actually attended is precisely this. They came up with the idea. Then after a lot of brainstorming, finding out the solution over there, and then doing a lot of study, we could explain them. Now look at it, whether the return on investment for making your old products ready to be for the new generation is worthwhile, or to go for a new product which is actually might be cheaper, reliable, or maybe more adaptive. You can actually make them web-enabled, install. And previously, when the technology was not available, we used to keep doing it actually. And I helped many companies to build those particular products as well with remote installation. But today the scenarios have changed, and I'm sure actually other audience we are got about 38, 48 people, 30, 40 people around there. and would like to hear from them as well if one or two people can comment. But what you say is quite true. It is a mix. There are absolutely no doubt. And when we look at these technologies, when we enable sensor technologies, what type of the sensors, what we make these people actually aware in the industry. Like you at the top management person, you are aware of it, which is extremely a positive news. However, the people in the company, most of the time we find out they are not ready. So to make them ready with this particular change and the thought process is one of the biggest one, because otherwise the top management looks at it how they would like to move their industry so far, but while the rest of the people, they don't match either as well. So this bridging the gap between actually the people, technology, their change of thought, their understanding of the technology, that also is a challenge actually what we try to take it up in our courses. And we encounter many times the same thing. People, with a machine can be changed quickly, the people, changing of the people is very, very difficult. Would anybody like from our audience would like to actually chip in and share something like for the approaches, what they tried so far? Or else we can maybe perhaps we can continue on this thread and maybe look at actually the other aspects.
Yeah,
AJT,
so Mr.
AJT,
Parmeshwaran has raised his hand. Mr. Parmeshwaran?
Mr.
Okay.
Parmeshwaran and Mr. AJT.
Okay.
Prem Sharan.
Yeah,
Mr.
Parmeshwaran,
Parmeshwaran?
you can unmute and speak. Or otherwise, meanwhile, AJT, I don't know, like, is a short form or what it is, but we'll just call you Ajit, and Ajit, you can go ahead.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Ah, yes, you are.
Prem Sharan,
So-
go on.
Yeah. So, Mr. Seshadri has said rightly, but when I see, I'm from the background of IT and telecommunication. I have seen IoT business in India as well as out of India. Like I would like to add some example like Surat. Surat Torrent has started that meter reading through a dongle, internet dongle, right? So nobody has to go personally there. In fact, ONGC or oil companies out of India in UAE, they are using so many sensors and web-based applications where they can also mark as a geofencing where people should not go, or there are restriction of more than 2 people should be standing on offshore or those kind of area. So rightly out of India, if you see, there are many companies who are into IoT, but at the same time, if we see IoT is not a simple product, it's not a plug and play kind of a thing. It has to be have a input from both the side, understanding from the both the side, right? What customer is in a requirement and what can be the fitted based.
Right.
Like a Six Sigma kind of a service kind of thing may be required in future that will have this IoT projects successful, in many aspects. Right now, the IoT projects we carry out may go for 80, 90% or 70% kind of a successful ratio. So right now, industry 4.0 going forward is it's a very good market and facilitate so many companies for the advancement against the what out of Indian companies are using right now,
Yes.
like China, Japan, what they are using as a robotics and all. We are still using manual things.
Manual.
So this is really a good one, and there are many examples right now. Also in COVID, we have developed one FR based Omron sensor that tablet which
Okay,
will
sound
capture
out.
the temperature as well as the attendance, as well as gather the data, how many times the person goes in, how many times the person
Yes,
goes out.
good.
So this is, and based on that, a admin or HR can do an analysis that what is the history of the person. So there are people who are ready to give and provide the solution. The only thing is the understanding and acceptance the other end to implement this thing against the legacy application or legacy uh, instrumentation they have. This is what I say.
Absolutely.
So change of mindset is required. That is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, that is true.
And this way we have seen many innovative ways people actually come up with in the recent times, because it was really necessary for the people to do it. In fact, for example, like simplest thing, the chartered accountants, they never thought about actually their data. Most of the people, even they're trying to do their own this thing, they used to dump their entire data to their CA and be done with that. Now the CA being not available, it was a big challenge for them, even if it last the entire year. And so most of the CA people, they went immediately actually, even their own servers with the VPN installation, people can do that because the finance data was the most critical data for any company, whatever it happens. And people quickly adopted it because it was an amazing thing actually what it happened. Even before the technology was there or not there, many people changed it. Few people changed even for the cloud-based solution, but most of the people having Tally in India, they immediately adopted actually the backup solution at the office, everything, because no people can do. And it was amazing. It is eye-opener for many
True.
people
Very
as a good change. Absolutely.
Mr. Prem Sharan,
Yeah.
you wanted to say something?
Yeah, actually, he
No.
was talking about.
Oh, okay.
He was talking about. And AJT, would you like? You also raised a hand. Would
No,
like to say something?
AJT said or Prem Sharan?
No,
Who
Prem
talked just
Charan.
now? Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, AJT, you can talk about. You raised a hand. You wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can unmute and speak.
You have to unmute Mr. AJT.
Yeah, now I think I'm audible.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what Mr. Ramesh was talking about data-driven decision. So I would like to share one example of one of our mining customer that for their condition monitoring of the belt, belt that carries mining ore, iron ore or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. So
It's
they
a
need to maintain the belt at a very secure and precise manner. And sensors would continuously monitor the belt for its position and temperature and alignment and everything. So that data are stored not only to the local software, but to the cloud as well. And that data would not only be used for a predictive maintenance of that particular belt, but also to other mining belts. So
Wow.
actually, obviously it will be collected anonymously, but such a beautiful integration not only creates benefits of the particular client, but to the industry as a whole. For example, if in my factory there is some issue because of some of the data, for example, motor temperature rise, and tomorrow some another factory has a similar issue of motor temperature rise, using my data, my factory's data anonymously, other factory in the community will also get alarm that yesterday or before a few days back, this was happened because of temperature rise. So please take some preventive or predictive actions. So this is how data driven is really wonderful things, and it is not just our own data, but it is the data of industry or community as a whole, and how we evolve our manufacturing or industry as a whole is really wonderful and beautiful things to wonder about.
Right. Yeah,
Thank-
condition monitoring is one of the best example of actually the people are really utilizing. Of course, the data of a typical industry to be utilized as a model set for others is one aspect of that. However, for that particular nature of the problem and the type of, for example, in your case, like what you mentioned about the conveyor belts, motors, and the kind of this operation, what it goes around, the temperature characteristic, the environment, what it works. So that data, which is actually the environment which is available for the rest of the people to model it, is extremely useful. Similarly, like there are companies those who use condition monitoring for motors and the operation. There are huge pumps across, and actually a lot of vibrating machines being there. So that type of the data is actually becomes another state of this. And these are the excellent examples of what the industry 4.0 can actually offer, or IoT can offer in specific.
Yeah.
As a combination.
Yeah, Sudarshan, before we go ahead, I would like to do a quick time check with Dishank, whether we are there on time or how long we have. Because what AJT was saying is quite good. It's related to benchmarking and best practices sharing across the industry. But let's see a time check that.
Yeah, we already
I
at
think
five.
no. Since the the discussion is quite engrossing, I think we can take a maximum maybe a couple of questions, and I think it will be done.
No, but we have a few more points also to make. So how much time do we
Okay.
have?
Okay, let's do one thing. Then
Five
let's actually.
I think we have around 10 minutes now.
Okay.
10 minutes more.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So Atul, you want to go ahead?
I want to go ahead. Yeah, I just wanted to thank AGT for the points that he had said. And I would just like to share this experience that I work with C4I4, that's the Center for Industry 4.0. So they are also working with a lot of MSMEs, and they are trying to create this kind of a benchmark where industries can compare with each other where they are on this journey and share best practices, because that really motivates other companies also and your friends in different organizations to start on this journey, and for which they have created something as a maturity model, something that the software industry did a lot. And the software industry in India grew because of this maturity model and comparing yourself with other companies on a level that where you are on the maturity level and so on. So that could be an interesting idea that we can explore. Yeah, Ramesh. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Okay, go ahead, Atul.
yeah. Atul, you, as I know from our past interactions, are a champion of the case study method for training. Okay. So, I mean, why the case study method, and do you want to highlight why we are going to use that as a important learning tool in our training sessions?
Yeah, surely. Ramesh, I won't say I'm a champion of the case study method, but that is what I find the most interesting or the most useful one, because I would say I'm more business oriented, and there are two outcomes that people want out of a training. One is that how do you measure what you learned? And secondly, how does the organization see the benefit of what you did after attending a training? So although everybody agrees that training is good and people should go and attend trainings, but they want to see the outcome. Now, when you come to Industry 4.0, if you look at the theory or if you look at the literature available, you'll find that there are 10 technologies to be understood and integrated together. So obviously, if you start learning these 10 technologies, it could take a very long time. And most of the industries and the CFOs, particularly in the companies, are not so keen on spending so much amount to figure out, not even knowing what is going to come out of it, because people will spend a lot of time learning all this. So for our course, what we are doing is we have created this case study method where the participants can first come with their own case study in their organization, saying that this is what we believe is helping us in our digital transformation journey. And if they try to, as a part of the course, they will create something known as a business case out of which justifies why this particular initiative will be helping the organization. And that is where the top management will suddenly see a focus. They'll say, oh, good. So there could be a bigger picture, but then you'll start small, because doing small steps will help you. If you want to get into a top-down approach, then we have a different way of saying that let the top management first get completely convinced that Industry 4.0 is a way to go. And then the organization sends a big team and says that all these people want to learn these 10 technologies. And then they can have cross-functional teams, some people understanding some technologies in detail, some other understanding other technologies in detail. But to do that, you have to start somewhere. So this course, which we are suggesting, is only 8 sessions. And we suggest that you should try to get an overview of these technologies, not actually learn all of them in detail, but use a case study to find out that to implement this case, what of the technologies could be useful. So that is the level you need to be aware of. And typically, if you look at it, the way Sudarshan and Ramesh are also emphasizing that we need to look at a data focused approach. So for any proposal that you come up with, you have to look at 3 things: how you are collecting the data, what are you going to use that data for, and how you are going to present that data, or how you are going to use it for decision making, and finally, what decisions are made out of that data. Now, whether your case study really includes all these 3 together, or it includes only one part of it, is up to you. But that is what you have to come up with, and come with a bigger picture first and say, oh, by the way, my case study is only going to collect data, or my case study is only going to format the data in a particular way so that the decisions can be much better. Or I'm going to create models which create decisions based on data as and when data is available. So it could be any of them. That's the approach we are suggesting for this course.
And I think this approach has really actually helped, because this kind of training is not necessarily for a type of the industry or a specific industry. So many people come together and they come up with actually the idea, and this typical idea, the case studies, they are specific nature of a problem for an industry, but it's not kind of top secret. It's a generic kind of a case study where the technologies and ideas can get exchanged, and the people actually, they brainstorm and they try to learn. And Ramesh, I think what our success from the previous one, what we actually looked at it, it was pretty evident that the people actually of various different levels from a management, they benefited from this. Because in organization, there are people with the top level, once they understand what they need to do, the next set of people are actually maybe the youngsters, actually those who might have witnessed those technologies or utilized those technologies. But there are actually intermediate level of the managers or the decision makers in the organization, where they might not have just came across this particular technology or approach, where they are focused, they're rigid. So even this kind of courses has helped them to break their mindset and actually look for these kind of changes. So this case study is actually really helpful. And I agree with Atul that it looks at actually the data and how you look at the data, how you capture the data, how each technologies are useful, and how the people will make best use of that. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay.
And hope to see you in the session later.
Thank you, everyone.